And welcome back to Sports Check on this Monday morning. It is the 6th day of March 2023. And conversations around sport continue. And this time around, what about somebody who's been there but wants to go back there? He's been vice chair of the Kenya Rugby Union. This time around, he wants to go for the presidency of the union. And this is in the elections, come by-elections that have been mandated by the Sports Dispute Tribunal. We'll be speaking with Sasha Mutai, and our sign language interpreter within this hour is Lucy Mwaura. Sasha, welcome.
Thank you, Wahome.
Yeah, and for you have sat on the board of the Kenya Rugby Union before, then eventually left. Taking a look at those, the gap and what you wanted to achieve, what would you say you were able to actualize in your first time on the board? Thank you very much.
I was director on the board, and I was in charge of sevens from 2006 to 2010. And then I came in 2012 to 2014 as a vice chairman. And then even that period, I was the chairman of Safari Sevens. So we made great strides at the beginning from 2006 on the sevens front. You'll remember that's the first time Kenya qualified for Rugby World Cup semi-final in 2009 in Dubai. And in 2013, we also qualified again for the semi-final of the World Cup in Moscow. We grew the team together with the late Benjamin Ayimba, with the team of Oscar Osir, Tuti, and that is when we actually started professionalizing the sport. We got in the money, we got in the sponsors. I was key in negotiating for those, and with a good team behind me, we managed to actualize these dreams of ours and aspirations, and we did very, very well. Got big sponsorships in, and eventually we even could command a sponsorship of $2 million. That's when players could go home with $6,000 at the end of the month. Now that's not happening now, and that's why I want to come back in as chairman and grow with this team and grow the sport. Unfortunately, partners and sponsors have left rugby because of various issues, and there's a bit of wrangling and everything in the sport. You can see we've even gone to tribunals, but that's not the face of the sport. We have passionate people running games, the teams, and that is what we have. Luckily, we have the human resource. Right now, we don't have the financial resources. I'm looking at coming in and bringing in those financial resources and to get Kenya back on track.
And one of the things that everyone wants to ask is where the board gives the policy direction, and then you have got the secretariat running the sport. Yeah. How do you intend to break that?
As I said, the human resource is good. We have good men and women, young men and women working the secretariat and also running teams, club boards and all that. And this, against all this adversity of lack of financial resources, some are even homeless. They don't have grounds to play on, including the KRU. And I said again, 2019, we need to secure a property at Kasarani and build our stadium. Now, there's been a lot of interference by the board on running of day-to-day matters. And you'll see even directors have been blamed for interfering with selections and all the team selections. That is not the mandate of board members. Once you hire a coach, head coach, the coaching team have a mandate to run the team. What the board should do is get those resources. So what we are looking at is having a good team at the board, and of course working in harmony with the people on the ground, the secretariat, and also with teams and with the national squads management. Yeah.
All right, Sasha Mutai, he wants to be chairman of the Kenya Rugby Union. Sasha, we'll be coming back to you. And he's spoken about, bringing in the professionalism to the sport, what happened then, and keeping the sponsors. But there is also something that comes with it, the risk of success. Where you want to make the most of it, but you forget the grassroots. Some gap somehow comes up to that. What's the whole plan such that there is one, I know most of the rugby in Kenya is secondary school based.
Yeah.
This transition to club rugby and competitive. So to ensure, that this is deepened. If someone comes from Kakamega and another one comes, say, from Shimo Latewa, if they're to be called up for an under 20 out trial, they're basically thinking the same.
Yeah, that's very right. We're looking at getting rugby in primary schools as a core sport. And to get that skill level, you have to have started playing rugby when you're like 6, 7 years old. If you look at countries like New Zealand, South Africa, Australia, France, the kids start playing rugby, tag rugby, where it's not tackling, but you're getting in the skills. So guys can pass to the left, to the right, and they can see they start having the rugby brain, start developing the game because they're in touch with it from a very young age. So we're looking at having it as a core sport, and also now getting financing for that from different corporates. Right now, in 2017, Income Tax Act in Kenya now has a provision from that time for deducting any sports sponsorships can be deducted from companies' revenues. So
it's tax relief.
It's a tax
allowable.
So so in Kenya we have the laws, but this has not been used because also of the framework. And we're looking at. I'm actually working with a company called Viva Africa, who are tax and legal consultants, and to come up with to actually exploit this. This is the way we're going to get money into the sport. This is also aligned with the Kenya Kwanza Sporting Manifesto, page 39. You'll have a look at it about public-private partnerships. So we're looking at having the children play rugby from a young age. Also having, before when we were in the 80s and 70s, there was what is called Colts rugby, and those are weight categories. So parents can let the kids play because there's no 100 kilogram boy and one who is 40 kilograms. It's now according to weights, and now that's where the skill comes in. So we're looking at improving that.
Actually, let me come to that, because you're talking about funding, and this actually would benefit any federation, not just the Kenya Rugby Union.
Yes.
This tax allowable, there's a clause, I know it's been mentioned severally, that clause is there. But what is that last one door that needs to be opened?
Yeah, so it says, if I quote, it's I'm trying to remember it. It's the CS of sport has to prove that prior to the money being sent for sports, and there has to be paperwork. So basically, it's coming up with a framework. We are working with this company, Viva Africa, to actualize this.
That's Narwa.
No. This is KRU Thuo. He sits on many boards as well, and he's a rugby fan, and we were in school together. So I'm using the technical abilities of the people out there in private sector to come into sport, because big companies are sitting on, if you look at ICA and the rest, who are some of our clients, sit on 350 billion shillings reserves. Now, they've usually been putting that into government paper, which is now has very low returns. So we're looking at getting that money into sport. So there is money. When people say there's no money, there is a lot of money in this country, and now we just have to provide this opportunity.
So that having been said, let's talk about now, working for grassroots development.
Yes.
Without grassroots development, one of the reasons why South Africa is a monster is because they have it.
Yes.
It's known. Eventually, you go to Stellenbosch. New Zealand have theirs. Australia have theirs. France, for their football, they've always had Clairefontaine, and for French rugby, they have Makusa, where Harambee Stars went.
Yes.
So, what's the whole idea to have this development system?
So what we also have to develop is the sporting infrastructure. The government, I think what we can work in partnership with the government, and I put it even in my manifesto, is to secure the property in Kasarani, where there's a master plan of over 1,000 acres. And every sporting federation in Kenya is supposed to have a piece of property there. Now, also working with this, with the Income Tax Act, this is how we're going to develop the infrastructure. My profession, I'm a quantity surveyor. I've been involved in some of the largest projects in the region. So I've thought of how to do this. And if you get companies like Bamburi and Devki Steel, Those resources, if say Bamburi puts in 300 million shillings worth of concrete, now it's the paperwork that has to be passed by the CS of sport. So we'll have to have quantity surveyors involved. So I'm also looking at bringing in our professionals. It's win-win each way. But with that in, we can develop infrastructure also in the counties. So what I'm looking at is the county governments to give leases, probably at peppercorn, basically very low rates, to clubs around. If you look at, as I was saying, Kenya Rugby Union is homeless. Also clubs like Mwamba. Mwamba is the first indigenous rugby club in Kenya. Right now they're negotiating for a lease with Kenya Forestry Services to have their home ground at City Park. Before they were at railways, and now there's a development there for the terminus. So they are basically homeless now and negotiating for that. So we are going to look as the Kenya Rugby Union, when I'm in as the chairman with the board, to negotiate with county governments to get in leases, and now partner up with private companies to develop this. Again, on the matter of somebody from Shimolatewa and one from Kakamega coming in, we need to have a national team coach for Kenya who is permanent. It's not a part-time job. He has to work full-time. So, of course, when he's not training the national team, he has to develop players across the board so that we have one style of play, and that goes down all the way to the schools.
So where do you bring in a director of rugby in that case?
Director
a technical director,
is a technical director who will coordinate all these activities. If you look at like South Africa, technical director is Rasi. So that is he's one-on-one with the coaching. So they set up the standard, and if Kenya's style is this, from a 7-year-old boy all the way to a national team player coming in, will have been exposed to the same standard. So you don't have to do too much. I've seen when Jerome Pavota came in when I was on the board, I remember the first training session, he had to get our rugby, and these are the top players in Kenya. He had to actually teach them how to pass to the right, which is a difficult thing if at that age, because bad habits stick, It's like a golf swing. You start wrong.
I mean, you've played it yourself.
Yeah. Yes.
And if you were to do it, I mean, if you were to try and use your hand motion, passing, if you're a right-handed person,
passing to the
left comes naturally. If you're a lefty, to the right comes naturally. How then do you adopt it?
So you see, even when it comes to this level of rugby, everything is like microseconds. So if you you have to stop to turn, and you see it also with some of our players, they have to stop and turn to throw a long pass. They can't pass to the right. This will be sorted out if you start playing rugby at 6 or 7 years old. I was privileged, and many of us were privileged to start playing rugby in Form 1, so when you're like 14 years old. But that's also late. And you've seen at that level our players starting rugby. Some have even started in university, and end up playing for a national team and have the skills and talent. So one thing that we're not lacking in Kenya is talent. We have to now harness that.
Now, let me come to this, because there's transition point. Secondary schools, I mean, if you pick it up and it runs, the biggest challenge then is transitioning. Is that between club, university, post-secondary school? What's the whole story to put this right?
Well, we have a lot of players who've played high school who drop off because there are not enough clubs. Right now, there are quite a number of clubs that have come up. If you look at, I think there's just about 55 in the nationwide, then you have 12 and 12. Chairmanship and Kenya Cup, and each whole Kenya Cup sides have an Eric Shirley side, and also now women. So what we're looking at is also now having all teams have women's teams as well. That will also come with funding, because we're looking at qualifying for 2025 Rugby World Cup with the women. The biggest opposition for Kenya is South Africa, and I'm sure once we put in the resources, we will be Africa's automatic qualifier. And also now for the 2027 Rugby World Cup for men, the work starts now. So we need to now get a full sponsor. I'm actually now calling them partners, not sponsorship.
Actually, that's a new language.
It's partnership, because you're actually giving them a value that is quantifiable. So that's what I'm looking at doing. And of course, with my big networks in business and in rugby world, I shall bring them to the board. And also looking at working with a good team. This is about teamwork. It's not just about Sasha Mutai, who is the chairman. It's the whole team that has to work together.
Yes. Now, let me come to this. There are three things. I mean, three things that I would like you to handle. So I'll go with the first.
Yeah.
That partnership with Western
Province.
Western Province in South Africa.
Yeah.
How do you optimize it? Because they've got some of the best out there.
Yeah, I mean, the current world champions are South Africa, the Springboks. Right now, you can see even our government and the South Africa government are now working together. You don't even require a visa. So yes, from this year you can fly. You just jump on a plane and go to South Africa. So we have to use our friends out there in the world. So rugby is very technical, and South Africa are one of the best right now. And we have this partnership that we started when I came into the board, actually from 2007. And many clubs in Kenya now, like you see KCB and all that, have used this partnership also to their benefit. So we're looking at
Cabras reaching out for their coaches.
Also their coaches and also some of their players. So the good thing is some of these clubs have actually harnessed that partnership and have grown it, and I'm looking at actually growing it.
All right.
Yeah.
The other one, and I'll put these two together.
Yeah.
The SDT said, Kenya Rugby Union, clean up your constitution.
Yeah.
Align it to the Sports Act, align it to the Constitution of Kenya. That's a quick one.
Yeah.
Number two, everybody's chances are there. If there are 3 candidates for chairmanship, everyone's opportunities. Everyone's got 1/3 chance. If you're 2, it's a half chance.
Yeah.
Which way? If it doesn't go your way, which way will you support the sport as we want?
All right. Yes, when I was even on the board, once the Sports Act came in, we were looking at aligning ourselves with the Sports Act, but we never got there. When we left, the next office really didn't push it, and now it's come to the fore. They've just, complied in fits and spurts, but not completely. Probably because of the politics, when they look at the political ramifications of being aligned. I think some people are scared. But this game is for everybody.
It's policy, it's not politics,
yes,
it's a law.
Yes, so they have to. They have to, and when I come into office, God willing, with the team we shall comply. And for me, I've always been in the sport, whether I was in or outside of the board. I assist teams every weekend when they come to us for assistance to play a game. Now, that's the one thing that, as I was saying before, we have the human resource. The club chairman, secretaries, and everybody involved in running clubs and the coaches play games every weekend, and are serious, where sometimes there are no referees. Referees have not been paid. Right now, I hear they've been paid, talking to the chairman of KRU. They'll only be paid for the first 2 games of this season. Right now, we're in the finals. Next week, this coming weekend is the finals, but they've only been paid for 2 fixtures so far. So against all this adversity, clubs are showing up and playing the game, producing our players who are representing our country, making us proud. Against all adversity, I'm looking at filling this gap, bringing in the resources, and now you can see there's also there's this the betting. Betting is big, so there's this I think
great opportunity.
Yes, so it's all about betting, money coming in, TV. It's modern, it's money. Yeah. So there's the lottery that's coming up. So we also have to look at getting our people involved in the tax lottery in the fund for the distribution part of it. I know. I think about 30 days ago, a committee was formed. And we're looking at, so I'm in touch with what is happening out there, and we're looking at harnessing that for the gator, for the sport.
Thank you very much, Sasha. Mutai is going for the KRU chairmanship in just about, 18 days, and let's see what board we shall have. Thank you for being with us. My name is Daniel Wahome. Coming up next on Kurunzi Mashinani is Khalid Abdullahi, followed by Tambrini. Our sign language interpreter has been Lucy Maura. Have a good day.